Is that the wind howling, or is the colonel snoring again? Ha, ... Wake up, Colonel, you're missing the lightning. Look at that flash, it illuminates the whole garden. It reminds me of the sparks flying off the iron wheels. Nurse, could you turn that heater up just a notch? My old bones feel the cold more than they used to, looking at this storm, ... It takes me right back. I wasn't always stuck in this armchair, shaking like a leaf. Once, I held the safety of hundreds of people in my hands. I'm serious, Martha. Stop rolling your eyes. It was 1962. When I was 27, I was working the graveyard shift as a signalman on the Northern Railway line. And let me tell you, the things you see when the rest of the world is asleep, ... they stay with you forever. Everyone comfortable? Good. Pass me my tea, would you, dear?
Thank you.
We sit here day after day playing cards, watching the television, waiting for our medication. It's easy to forget that we all had lives before this place, big lives, dangerous lives. Take me, for instance. You look at me now, and what do you see? Silas, the man who needs a walker to get to the bathroom. Silas, who forgets where he put his reading glasses 5 times a day. But there was a time my eyesight was sharp as a hawk's. My grip was iron. I could swing a sledgehammer for 10 hours straight and not break a sweat. I want to tell you about a specific winter. The winter that turned my hair gray. It starts with the cold. Not the drafty cold of this hallway, I mean real cold. It's the kind that freezes your breath in your throat before you can even speak. It happened in the deep winter of '62, when I was 27. I had just taken a job as a signalman at the Blackwood Junction. It was miles away from the nearest town. Just a small wooden cabin, a coal stove, and the endless stretch of steel tracks disappearing into the dark forest. At 27, you think you're invincible. I needed the money. My wife, Eleanor Goad, rest her soul, was expecting our first, and the railway paid double for the night shift. So, I took it. Picture it, friends. No mobile phones. No radios playing music. Just the hum of the telegraph wire and the absolute silence of the snow. My job was simple but critical. I had to pull the heavy iron levers to switch the tracks for the freight trains coming from the north. If I fell asleep, disaster. If I made a mistake, derailment. I remember looking at my hands back then. No spots, no tremors. Strong hands. Grease under the fingernails. Wore a thick wool coat that smelled of soot and tobacco. The cabin, the signal box, was my kingdom. It was elevated, sitting high up on stilts, so I could see down the line. But at night, in a blizzard, you couldn't see past the glass. It was like living inside a cloud. For the first few weeks, it was fine. It was boring, even. I'd read books, drink coffee that tasted like tar, and wait for the 2 a.m. express. But then came the night of December 14th. The snow had been falling for 3 days straight. The drifts were high up against the ladder of my cabin. It was around 1 a.m. The telegraph started clicking. Click, clack, clack, clack. That was the signal from the station 10 miles up. K train was coming, an unscheduled train. I checked the logbook. Nothing was supposed to be on the line tonight. The passenger trains had been canceled due to the storm. I stood up, my boots thudding on the wooden floorboards. I wiped the condensation off the window and peered out. Pitch black, just the swirling white snow. Then I heard it, the whistle. But it sounded ... wrong. It sounded distant, mournful, like an animal in pain. I grabbed my lantern and stepped out onto the balcony of the signal box. The wind hit me like a physical punch. It almost knocked me over the railing. "Hello?" shouted. Stupid, really? Who could hear me over a storm like that? No. Down on the tracks, through the curtain of snow, I saw the light. A single, dim yellow headlight approaching slowly. Much too slowly for a freight train. I rushed back inside and grabbed the heavy iron level lever number 42, switched the tracks. Diverting it to the main line so it wouldn't crash into the siding. I pulled. The lever was stuck. Now, I want you to imagine the panic. When I was 27, I was strong, as I said. I braced my foot against the wall and pulled with all my might. The veins in my neck were popping. The train was getting closer. I could feel the vibration in the floorboards. Rumble, ... rumble, ... come on. Screamed at the machinery. The ice had frozen the mechanism outside. I had no choice. I had to go down there, grabbed the sledgehammer, and ran down the icy metal stairs. I slipped halfway down, banging my shin. I felt that for weeks, but I scrambled up. The train was only a few hundred yards away now. The light was blinding in the snow. I reached the switch on the tracks. It was caked in solid ice. I swung the hammer. Clang. Nothing. The train whistle blew again. Loud. Deafening. Clang. I hit it again. The ice cracked. Clang. I hit it a third time, screaming with the effort. The mechanism freed up. I threw my shoulder against the manual switch and shoved it over, just as the heat of the engine hit my face. The train roared past me. But here is the part that still makes me shiver, even sitting here in this warm room with you all. As the train passed, I looked up at the windows. It was an old passenger train, the kind they stopped using in the 40s, and every single window was dark, no lights inside, except for the very last car. In the last window, perfectly clear despite the snow, a man was standing there. He was wearing a conductor's uniform. He looked right at me. He had a face so pale it looked like paper. He raised his hand and pointed. Not at me. He pointed down the track, toward the bridge over the gorge. I stood there, panting, snow melting on my face, watching the red taillights fade into the dark. I climbed back up to the cabin, shaking, called the next station on the telegraph. Station master, I tapped out. Unscheduled train passed. Heading your way? The reply came back instantly. No train on the line, Silas. The bridge is out. It collapsed an hour ago under the snow. If a train went that way, it's gone. My heart stopped. I grabbed my coat and ran. I ran down the tracks in the blizzard, mile after mile, until my lungs burned. I reached the gorge. The bridge was gone, twisted metal hanging into the abyss. But there was no train wreck. No smoke, no fire, no twisted carriages at the bottom of the ravine. The tracks just ... ended at the cliff edge. The snow on the tracks leading up to the break was smooth, untouched. No wheels had passed over them. I fell to my knees in the snow. I was 27 years old, a grown man, and I wept like a child, because I knew what I had seen. I knew that if I hadn't gone down to switch that track, if I hadn't seen that train, I wouldn't have run to check the bridge. And if I hadn't checked the bridge, I would have signaled the morning express, carrying hundreds of people, including my own brother, to go through at 6 a.m. I saved them, but I don't know what warned me. Silas takes a long, shaky sip of his tea. The room is silent. I quit the railway the next morning. I never worked a night shift again. I took a job in a library. Quiet, safe, boring. People told me I was hallucinating from the isolation. They said the storm made me see things. Maybe they're right. Maybe it was just the wind and the shadows. But I know what I saw when I was 27. And sometimes when the colonel here snores and the wind howls around this building, I can still hear that whistle. Ooh. Pass the biscuits. Would you, Martha? I think I've earned a chocolate one after telling that. And you, young Manyas? You with the camera don't? Look at me like I'm crazy. I'll be old one day too, and you'll have your own ghosts. Just make sure you listen to them when they try to warn you. Now who wants to play gin rummy? I'm feeling lucky tonight.